And now, the World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. What is the real story behind stock market declines worldwide? The global military made a $2.9 trillion mistake. The battle for Lionsgate continued over the weekend as the gateway to source peaked on Saturday. The secret reason behind the war in the Middle East. The economic hierarchy of the world and the flow of money now currency explained. Now here's the World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan and the Office of the Guardian.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Let's talk about what happened over the weekend. We had a lot of stuff moving in the world, both good and bad. But for the most part, everything that they're doing will ultimately be for our best good. So there was a conversation that I had back in 2013, and I've mentioned it to you before, if you've been following me for a while, whereas the Rothschild family basically said that they would crash the dollar, crash the world's economy, and then buy everything back for pennies on the dollar. And we've talked about this before because they've attempted this several times. And then, of course, when they don't have the money to complete this task, we go right back to where they started and the markets come back up and there's no problems. This time, this was a little bit different. Was the Order of the Dragon involved? Yes. Were the Rothschild family involved? Yes, they were. So here is the reason why we saw a sharp decline on Friday in the markets and also a decline today somewhat that looks like it's, I guess you would say, somewhat recovering at this point. What we're seeing is a siphon, essentially. On Friday, I talked about the fact that we thought that they got about between $70 to $80 million, which in part was true. The amount of money that was received to get the war in the Middle East started was around that amount. And that was the amount that was actually released to the military and to other folks to get, the arms dealers and so on and so forth. But the total amount from all global markets worldwide was somewhere around $2.9 trillion. Now, unfortunately for these people, they never learn. So they took this $2.9 trillion, put it into an off-ledger account, and began trading against that $2.9 trillion, not really sure what they were trading, probably government bonds, loads of promises and zero delivery. They used it as flash cash over the weekend to get some of these groups in the Middle East that are participating in this show to start, firing rockets and this and that over the weekend. And it's gone kind of up and down. But at the end of the day, they couldn't get the money back into the system. So there were about 3 or 4 facilities within the U.S., most of them with inside mountains, so you would consider them latent facilities that they tried to revive during Lionsgate. And they were pretty much around the main point of Lionsgate, which would have been in Yellowstone Park. And we talked about the Oracle and why that was a main point in the world last week. So they siphoned it into these facilities, began creating numbers for money, which is not currency. And they ended up ramping up these fictitious numbers to somewhere around $880 trillion. Now, they couldn't get it back into the system. That's the problem. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit, about the economic hierarchy of the world, because I think it's important for everybody to understand when I say things don't work, why they don't work, and why there is only one way to fix this. So by Sunday, they started calling, of course, through contact that they have of mine, never me directly, of course. And they started calling and asking for a meeting, asking for help. Then when we said, no, we can't help you, we won't help you, they came back and went and tried some more hacking to see if they could get some more money from somewhere. Of course, there's no trading on the weekends except for FX, which is currency trading for a short period of time. And then they would come back an hour or two later after they failed, and then they would go back and then ask again, and we would say no, and then they'd go back and try something else, and then that wouldn't work out. Then they'd come back. This happened probably about 8 or 9 times all day long on Sunday, yesterday. Now, why can't we help them? Number one, it is abundantly clear that they really do not understand macro and microeconomics on any level. Number two, they obviously don't learn from their previous mistakes, because this has been going on for probably about 5 or 6 years now, where ever since the advent of the key integrated monetary system, they haven't figured out that once they take it out of the system and put it into any kind of an off-ledger server or remote server, why they can't get this quote-unquote money back into the system. And that problem is even worse now than it ever was with the advent of currency versus money or credits. They want me, I know what they want from me, they would like me to put allocation numbers to their money, this $880 trillion, so that it's not all dollars, by the way, it's various other currencies around the world. You had RMB in the pool, you also had rubles in the pool, and so on and so forth. And a lot of promises made to these respective countries should they be successful. Yeah. Well, that didn't quite work out. We did find the International Treasury Transfer Reserve System, which is an old system that was tied to the Plunge Protection Committee, not only for U.S. market plunges, but also for deep drops in other markets in the world as well, like UK and everywhere there's a treasury, which is every country in the world. And that's how they were siphoning it out the back door. In addition to that, they had all of their players in the game, such as Buffett and Soros, I call these bagmen, Rockefellers and other large hedge funds, BlackRock, all in on it as well. Therefore, there was a large sell-off, and there continues to be a significant increase in sell-offs. The market's been down anywhere between 1,200 to around 950, 960 today. They continue to try to repeat today, in cooperation with all of their bagmen, the same thing they did on Friday, because somehow all of that fictitious money evaporated over the weekend, probably within 24 hours of this game, this scam, including the money that they siphoned out of the market. So there's another almost 3 trillion US dollar equivalent in various currencies that has left the banking system as liquidity. Now, I know this sounds a little bit scary, but it's not really at this moment. The lack of liquidity in the banking system and the fall in the markets is a positive for humanity as a whole. I know everybody's hitting the panic button and it's all over alternative media. We're all going to die. Insert Nisara Jasara, and now it's Trump Sara is out there. But none of those things are actually the case. What will happen in the future is it will allow us regular humans, not me per se, but regular humans, to actually acquire some of these large corporations, larger hedge funds, and start running them right once they all go bankrupt. So if they continue to try to crash the market, it's only going to help us in the long run recover faster. Think about how we could change the world if we could acquire some of these large corporations for literally pennies on the dollar or currency, actually spendable, usable cash in a banking system. Now, once the Rothschilds today got wind of this not working, and they got wind of the fact that I am refusing to give them allocation numbers, let alone even have a conversation at this moment, because I know a conversation with these people is going to end the same way it always ends. Well, here's what you're going to do. And I come back and say, no, I'm not. And then there's some kind of threat that takes place. Possibly some other guy comes in and tries to flirt or something like that. And we still end up at the same place with them not getting any allocation numbers and me not helping. That's